first guest is Christopher Cantwell, American anarchist writer and host of the show Radical Agenda. As his show name suggests, he has some fairly extreme views and is very outspoken about them. Recently, one of those views is why libertarians should be more pragmatic and vote for Donald J. Trump. He's received a lot of criticism for this, but we have him on the show today to defend a more pragmatic approach. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Good to be with you, Lauren.
All right, so I want to jump into the pragmatic versus purist topic in a second here, but I do love a good discussion on censorship always, and I know that you are currently banned from Twitter and Facebook, is it?
Well, I am now onto my third Twitter account, and both
they keep
my
getting just completely
Facebook
wiped, right?
Yeah, they completely deleted it. Like, Facebook at least has the common decency to let me have access to my audience after a month. Twitter just completely deleted the account and didn't even explain to me what it was I got deleted for.
You do have some fairly opinions that ruffle feathers a bit. But of course, we're both libertarian anarchists here, so we support free speech. And the censorship has gotten insane. That's really a shame for the Twitter situation. But anyways, jumping into things, I watched a bit of your Radical Agenda episode where you were kind of defending the Libertarians for Trump movement because it's a bit more pragmatic. And you've got people that have come out on the Lew Rockwell website, like economist Walter Block, and just huge figures coming out in support of it. How would you, just in a short paragraph, defend the more pragmatic approach?
Well, I would say that the biggest problem that we have in America right now, anyway, is the left. And anything that makes the left as upset as Donald Trump does is a good thing for libertarians. These people are not just a pain in the neck. They're not just ruining my fun. They are dangerous people. And I don't think that you see quite as much hostility towards purported libertarians who support Bernie Sanders, because leftists are infiltrating the libertarian movement. And so I think that Donald Trump is a person who absolutely makes these people want to leave the country, and anything that makes liberals want to flee the continent is fantastic for me.
Now, in the States, obviously, I'd have to agree with you. You're never going to get your unicorn candidate. You have to pick someone that's kind of as similar, or someone who pisses off the left the most. And you're not going to see a libertarian win anytime soon. But here in Canada, we have more, our third parties have a little more of a chance of actually winning. And if we do vote pragmatically for a conservative government as libertarians, then we could have a chance of our party, or Libertarian Party, Green Party, anything, being wiped off the map. What would you say to that? Like, people don't want the Libertarian Party to disappear in Canada or the States, but they also, you're right, a lot of them do want to get rid of these crazy leftists.
Well, I would say I don't know exactly what the situation is there in Canada, but in the United States, the Libertarian Party is an impotent, useless organization. All they're good for is, spreading a message to some extent. I ran for Congress as a Libertarian candidate back in 2010, and it was nice. I mean, I got to go out and shake a lot of hands and talk to people about why the government couldn't solve their problems. But there was no way I was ever going to get elected. At least in our system, in our political system, you are not getting elected as a libertarian. It's almost impossible. Mm-hmm. So it's fine to run as a protest candidate or to lodge a protest vote, but you are not going to win an election that way. If you want to wield political power in the United States, you have to do it as a Republican or a Democrat.
Right, and that's why you see people like Ron Paul and Rand Paul running for the Republicans, because it's their only shot. What would you say to the anarchists and libertarians that have completely opted out? You're seeing these people that are in massive protests, that are livid with yourself and other libertarians for supporting Trump and going pragmatic and saying, I'm not even voting this election. What would you say to them?
If they are people who would apply this to Ron Paul as well, then I'll admire them for taking a principled stand. I can understand why they would do that, and I've held that stance myself. However, if we are going to look at the political system in any way, let's take an honest look at it. And chances are a president is going to be elected in November of this year. And it's terribly unlikely that by boycotting the election, they're going to prevent that from happening. And it is ridiculous to pretend, yes, all government is coercive violence, but it is ridiculous to think that one candidate does the exact same thing as another. That is a demonstrably false thing. So if you imagine a President Bernie Sanders getting up in the White House and using that bully pulpit to tell people that the biggest problems that we have in this country are wealth and white people, and that's going to go on for 4 or 8 years, I think that's a considerably bigger problem, even just culturally. Forget about the policies. Just what it does to the psyche of the citizenry when that's in the White House telling them how things work. Considerably more damaging than Donald Trump, who goes out and encourages greatness.
You see this happen in interpolitics as well, like within parties, people going for more pragmatic approaches. The problem I see with that is when they say, okay, in the party, the conservatives are going to compromise a bit and say we're going to legalize weed, we're going to allow gay marriage and abortion. They suddenly, when they compromise so much and become so pragmatic to win elections, they're no longer a conservative party at all. And I think you're going to see that eventually with the Republicans. Every year they shift more to the left to compromise. How much do we compromise? How pragmatic do we be before we're not even libertarians, before we're not even Republicans anymore?
Well, I mean, that's certainly a worthwhile concern, and certainly Donald Trump's policies are not the most libertarian of policies. I don't think that he's got some very good ideas on trade. I would far prefer to walk away from the situation in the Middle East. But you have to look at what's actually happening, right? So, I mean, if the United States is going to engage in these crazy foreign policy decisions, if you're going to wage a war, well, maybe you go in, kill everybody, come home, and call it a day. If you're going to be dealing with nations that are manipulating their economy, then, all right, there might be a role for government in dealing with those other nations that are manipulating their economies. So there is a concern about being too compromising, but it's ridiculous to watch the Republican Party, which nominated Mitt Romney in 2012, talking about Donald Trump not being conservative enough. Ted Cruz is running around with nominations from with an endorsement from Jeb Bush, a fundraiser from Lindsey Graham, and has Mitt Romney caucusing for him in Nevada. So his conservative credentials are being diminished by his endorsements rather rapidly, while everybody who is part of the Republican machine that has been screwing us over for decades is vehemently opposed to Donald Trump.
The thing is, of course, you see some compromise with conservative values in the Republican Party, but I find the left, especially here in Canada and in the States, is continually winning because they will compromise anything, right? You had the Democrats before that were supporting slavery, and suddenly when the Republicans got rid of it, they're like, okay, I guess slavery is kind of bad. We'll be against that as well. And today you have Justin Trudeau here in Canada who just looks at the political platform and he's like, all right, people want weed, you're getting free weed. Okay, people want refugees, you're getting all the refugees. They have no real principles and they just compromise to win, 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 win. How can a party compete with that without throwing away all of their standards and traditions?
Well, everybody who wants to participate in politics should read a book by Robert Greene titled The 48 Laws of Power. Leftists have mastered the game of politics. They will do and say anything to wield power and to accomplish their goals. And one of the problems that we have on the right, or more so with libertarians perhaps, is that we get into power on the rare occasions that we do, and then we're like, look at how principled I am, and I'm not going to go and upset or destroy my enemies or anything like that. When leftists get into power, they begin organizing things in a way that is harsh and repressive to the right in order to make a hostile environment towards them. And the other thing I would encourage people to read is The Evolutionary Psychology Behind Politics, RK Selection Theory, and these things have the left and right thing is a biological phenomenon, and how they alter the environment matters a great deal. So these things have profound repercussions, and we have to do things that make us uncomfortable to defeat our enemies, because they will destroy us if we do not.
See, that's interesting, because I'm seeing this happen a lot with libertarians who are saying this cannot exist, smaller government cannot exist, while leftists do, because they will always try to co-opt it, they will always try to take over the movement. Are you, as an anarchist libertarian, suggesting a more authoritarian culture over education and things in order to preserve the idea of freedom?
My ideal situation would be the abolition of the state, where the left has no access to a democratic process by which to elect a government. Short of that, so long as there is going to exist, I am all for, I am an aspiring helicopter pilot for the Pinochet administration. Throw these people out of helicopters, do what you have to stop them, because they will destroy us.
Of course, you don't mean that literally, but this is why he is banned from Twitter and Facebook right now. Just banter. Now, we have to go to break pretty quickly, but any last words to convince maybe the few libertarians who just hate you for this and just vehemently will not vote for Trump? Anything you can say to convince them to pragmatically vote, whether it be for a left-wing or right-wing party?
Well, if they are thinking about voting for a left-wing party, I am all for them taking that really principled approach and not voting. Do nothing to help left. I am not kidding. Libertarian, if you are a left libertarian, then yes, take that principled approach and don't vote. But if you care about the future of your country, if you care about the future of your people, you might want to have a president who, even again, aside from policies, it has to do with culture. The culture matters. And if somebody gets up there and says, our biggest problems are wealth and white people, or somebody gets up and says, our people matter and we should try to be great, the guy who says that our people matter and we should try to be great is a better influence on the culture of your citizenry than is the guy who says your biggest problem is wealth and white people.
All right, I actually have to agree with that there. I see, but we will have, I'm having YouTuber That Guy T on right after you to counter your argument, so we'll have to see what he has to say there. Anyways, where can the guests find your content? Where can they listen to your podcasts? ChristopherCantwell.com is where you can find pretty much everything. The name of the show is Radical Agenda. You can pick that up on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn, Roku, and pretty much every platform. You haven't been banned from there yet, eh?
Not banned from YouTube just yet, but they'll probably get to it. That's why you got to sign up for my email list at ChristopherCantwell.com/subscribe, so when the censors get to me, we can communicate directly.
Excellent. All right, thank you so much for coming on the show, Chris.